Hot Sheet is here. It's the OG crew here. Scott Braun and Baseball America's JJ Cooper and Geoff Pontes with you. An early happy holidays to everyone. And actually, with that, it's not just about Thanksgiving, but the next day is Black Friday, JJ. And that means it is a very affordable, even cheaper way to get yourself involved in the Baseball America family. That's right.
If you do not have a Baseball America subscription, I can promise you this. We do not put sales on very often, but we have a Black Friday sale all week this week. And if you go over to baseballamerica.com, very easy links right over there, you get 40% off on a digital subscription. That is a sale that we do not do any other time of the year. We only do it right now. And so if you want, I can promise you the least expensive way to subscribe to Baseball America and get all of our content at baseballamerica.com. That's the way you do it. Free, again, it's a 40% off deal, and it'll only be on for this week. And after that, it'll go away, and we'll see if we'll have it back again 365 or so days from now. But it is the best offer that we make all year. So check it out over at baseballamerica.com.
Boom. And the one other thing I will add is that it also makes a great gift for baseball fans that you know. I know many people, I don't want to say struggle, but they want to get creative, right, with their gifts. And if you'd like to get creative, this is a great way to do so. You can definitely gift subscriptions to others as well and get them signed up.
I'll tell you this, if you have someone who likes to play fantasy baseball in their life, reading Geoff and Dylan's content on that would make the gift worth it by itself.
That's right. Sometimes that can actually be lucrative depending on how your league is set up.
They'll make money on it, maybe.
Yeah,
perhaps. I like that. We can make it back.
Geoff will do his best with his analysis for you. All right, let's get to first move. This is interesting. Just a fascinating story in The Athletic from Evan Drellick and Ken Rosenthal titled, "The Pirates and Marlins Have a Sudden Willingness to Spend. Here's What Could Be Behind It." JJ, let's begin here with what's going on with these teams. And also I want to make sure that we don't go, we can definitely do our fair share of criticizing how these teams operate from a financial perspective. I think big money market teams or big market teams do so in private meetings behind the scenes at owners meetings, right? Like, hey guys, we give you all this money and you don't do much with it. But the other side here is where these teams are at from a competitive standpoint.
The window for the Pirates, as I see it, focusing on them first, is right now. And it's not because I'm thinking that the Pirates are going to win the World Series in 2026. But if you look at where Paul Skeens is, when you look at the rotation they still have Keller. We'll see if he's a trade piece. But Mitch Keller, Bubba Chandler, Jared Jones, numerous other starters as well. They have pitching depth fronted by the best pitcher in the National League. And now when you look, and they have the number one prospect in baseball, and as Geoff and I have said on the show before, I know we haven't done our offseason update. We can promise you he will remain the number one prospect in baseball. But you have Connor Griffin, and they've said that he will come to spring training. Jeff Passan, I think, was first to report that he will come to spring training with a chance to win a job, big league club. This is the year to take a big step forward if you're the Pirates, with a very realistic belief that you could be a playoff team, maybe not this year, but in 2027. And to do that, you kind of want Kyle Glazer, when he was with us, wrote a couple stories about this that spelled this out well, that you want to spend in advance. You want to sign the free agents to help you get there before, so you build momentum, not you sign the free agents when you think you're there. This is the year to do that. And Geoff, the other thing that stands out there is when we talk about Connor Griffin going to spring training with a chance to win the job, I kind of feel like obviously he has to earn it, but at the same time, when you look at a team that doesn't have a shortstop, and on top of that, they don't have a shortstop, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for them to go out and try to find a long-term answer there when Connor Griffin reached Double-A at the end of last year. It's kind of a conundrum where whether he's their shortstop on opening day or not, it's kind of hard to believe he won't be their best shortstop at some point in 2026, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And, I think it's kind of an interesting problem that potentially one could solve the other. There is money there to potentially give or offer an extension to Connor Griffin. I'm 100% positive that is something that's been discussed within the Pirates front office. It's just a matter of whether ownership will, actually give out the amount of money that it would take to buy out some free agent years from Connor Griffin. But I think when you look at this organization setup, you look at their current 40-man roster, you look at their active major league roster, and you look at their lineup, there is no question that Connor Griffin right now not only is the most talented player, but might be the most posed for major league success among the position players that are under contract with the Pirates just throughout the organization. So I think that point obviously still stands. And, I think your point in terms of spending that money a little bit earlier, I think we saw that with the Cubs and when they were able to finally get over the hump with that core. We saw it, a little bit with the Padres. Now, obviously, they haven't won a World Series, but they certainly upped their profile and have been, consistently pretty good after a long stretch of being pretty bad. That was as, there were some buzz in terms of their young prospects. Of course, Fernando Tatis kind of being key among those players. Players know this sort of stuff. They're aware that a guy like Connor Griffin is as good as he is, and that Paul Skeens, of course, is as good as he is. That gives you a little bit more, opportunity to maybe sell that a little bit. And I think it's the same in Miami's case. I mean, this is the only sport in North America where Miami isn't like a prime destination for free agents. I mean, even in football, as bad as the Dolphins have been, they still get some big free agents to sign there. So it'll be really, really interesting to see how all of this plays out, if they actually are going to be active in the market, because I think in different ways, they can both be looked at as, potentially really good situations for a free agent.
The other thing I just want to add with that is, especially, focusing again on Pittsburgh, we're not expecting that they're going to go out there and be at the top of the market for the best, free agent starting pitcher. I don't think Framber Valdez is going to end up a Pirate or anything like that. But when you look at it and say, okay, if they do have a willingness to spend some money, even a modest amount of money in free agency, they were so bad at so many positions last year that it does not take massive upgrades to really improve this team at multiple positions. Again, we talked about shortstops handled. They've got some young guys at some other positions. I would say that Spencer Horwitz is going to figure in somewhere. Jared Triolo is going to fit in at least as a utility infielder somewhere, although he'll probably be starting for the Pirates. Let's just be honest. They need to figure out what they're going to do with O'Neal Cruz and whether he can improve and be a solid center fielder, a solid right fielder, or is he not able to play the outfield after they moved him out there? But when you look at this team as a whole, there are multiple positions where they had really kind of replacement level or slightly above replacement level players last year. And going out and adding, again, just useful, even second tier free agents could really kind of raise the floor of this team. Because if you say, what was the problem last year? Pitching staff was fine. They couldn't score any runs. The best way I can put it, and this is nothing against Andrew McCutchen, who's a great player, but if you have days where Andrew McCutchen at this point in his career is clearly the best hitter in your lineup, that's probably not ideal. And we saw that too much with Pittsburgh last year. So I do think that this is the consolidation year to get them above 500, to get them at least kind of on the edges of the playoff race, to then make a real playoff push in 27. But I don't think when you have a guy like Connor Griffin coming up, who by 27, 28 should be one of the better young players in the National League. I kind of wanted to just summarize that again. I don't think we can talk enough about Connor Griffin. He's a number one prospect, but even when you talk to people in baseball about Griffin as the number one prospect, they kind of make a point. Not all number one prospects are created equal. Some years you have truly stud premium prospects, and other years you have, this is the best guy of the group. Connor Griffin fits in that first category. This is a guy who the comps that we hear, the comps of, are comparing, like, is this guy going to be as good as Bobby Witt Jr.? Is this guy, Mike Trout at shortstop type things? Again, I don't want to go that far because Mike Trout was the best player of the 2010s, but it's going to be at this point hard to believe that Connor Griffin's not going to be an above average regular. That's kind of like, that would almost be a slightly disappointing outcome, I would say, Geoff, at this point for Connor Griffin. And the potential outcome is one of the best players in baseball for many, many years to come, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm going to jump in here just for time purposes, guys, because I do want to get to the Marlins as well. So if you don't mind, let's just spend 2 quick minutes on pivoting to them. JJ, I'll go back to you for a moment here, and Geoff will shine in the next segment. Trust me. So What do you think is the difference between these two organizations, since they were paired in this athletic report talking about generally how these teams kind of tinker with trouble? They get a lot of money from other owners and they don't really spend enough of it. So where are the Marlins at compared to the Pirates?
I think the Marlins have a tougher task here for a couple of reasons. One, they're in a tougher division. Let's just start there. I know that the Brewers are really good now, but you are in a division of the Marlins where you know the Mets are going to spin, you know the Phillies are going to spin, you know the Braves are going to spin. And we think that the Nationals at some point should be better too. So that's something number one. But the other one is just the more difficulty of pulling it off when you're a very pitching heavy top prospects. The Marlins were a better team than the Pirates last year. I don't think there's much question on that as far as overall big league roster. But it's hard to point to Joe Mack's going to come up. He should be a very good catcher for them, probably in 2026. But at the same time, there's fewer like elite position players that you would look at. Connor Griffin is the elite of the elite position player prospect. The Marlins' best prospect are pitching prospects. They can hit it, as well. Thomas White, Robbie Snelling. We could go down the list. They've got some guys obviously already at the big league level, Cabrera, Alcantara, guys like that. But syncing it up with a pitching focused without like star position players, I think is a little tougher. And that's where it's going to be tougher to kind of say, okay, how does Miami take that next step? The other thing I would say is that Miami did a great job last year of really kind of finding second tier prospects, prospects who lost a little bit of their shine. Xavier Edwards had a good year for them. Stowers, who they got from the Orioles in the Trevor Rogers trade, guys like that. But they all had a lot of guys who had kind of, I would say, like what you hope to see out of them kind of seasons. Sometimes there's a little regression from that too. So like, even though I would say that they had I would say that they were more promising where they were in 25. I feel probably a little bit more, that there's a little more promising where the Pirates could be in 26 and 27.
Hey, good stuff. I'm sure it's not the last time we'll talk about these two teams, but swinging back to talk about a playoff team, and that's the Boston Red Sox, and we'll give you a little update on their top 10.
Hey, for all the parents out there with teens, it's more hectic now than ever.
Cash App's going to help, not hurt.
With the Cash App card, available to teens 13 to 17 with sponsorship by an eligible parent or guardian, every transaction triggers a real-time notification for you to see, empowering your teen to practice independence while giving you peace of mind by keeping track of their spending. You can also manage everything directly from your own Cash App account without having to switch between the two. With the Cash App card, you and your teen's balances receive 24/7 fraud monitoring. And if something ever feels off, you have the ability to lock their card right from your phone in just one tap. For a limited time, new Cash App customers can earn $10 if they use code FAMILY10 in their profile at sign up and send $5 to a friend within 14 days. Terms apply. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's bank partner. Prepaid debit cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC. Direct deposit and promotions provided by Cash App, a Block Inc. brand. Visit cash.app/legal/podcast for full disclosures.
We're back on Hot Sheet, and we're talking about the top 10 prospects list updated for the Boston Red Sox. If you want to get much more info on it, of course, get yourself a Baseball America subscription. Go back to the top of the show to learn more about the sweet Black Friday deal that's rolling this week. Geoff Pontes, give us a little bit of a sneak peek at what to expect with this top 10.
Yeah. I think that it's a very different top 10 than it was even a year ago, where the position players and the high-end position players at the top of this list, of course, really, really carried it. It was talented. It was deep throughout. A lot of the players that have now moved up in sort of the top 5 spots were lurking kind of in or at the cusp of the top 10. Now it's a very pitching-heavy system, though. I think that, we've seen the Red Sox over the last couple of years kind of off the field invest in some of the pitching structure, we'll say it is, in terms of bringing in consultants like a Kyle Boddy or, hiring Justin Willard, who now went to the Mets. But they've also spent more money than they had probably in the previous 2 decades, or at least since they drafted Trey Ball, in terms of actually drafting pitchers and spending money over the last couple of years. There was a good article actually on The Athletic this week, kind of discussing some of the details of what they were looking at. And we have a lot of power pitchers now at the top of this list. It's headed off by Peyton Tolley, who we saw a little bit at the end of the season and a little bit in the playoffs. Left-hander, added a ton of velocity when he dropped hitting. He was a two-way guy in college at Wichita State and then later at TCU for a season. Made big gains this year. He's still a guy that I think we all project as one of the better starting pitching prospects long term, even though he did spend some time in the bullpen with the Red Sox. Then it's followed by Franklin Arias, who's one of the best hit tool driven players in the minors. A little bit divisive. He's a really good shortstop, not very speedy despite having some decent stolen base numbers over the years. Not a whole lot of actualized power at this point. So you'll get some divisive opinions on him, which is very different from what we saw in the previous year with a guy like Roman Anthony, where there really wasn't a lot of debate about, how good of a prospect Roman Anthony was. Or even, Marcelo Meyer, though he did obviously deal with some injuries, etc. Still, more impact, more of like your standard sort of shortstop kind of prospect in the modern age. And then after those two guys, there's kind of this really closely bunched group of pitchers. I think when we look at lefty Conley Early, Kyson Witherspoon, who was their first round pick out of Oklahoma last year, has really, really good stuff since 96 to 98 in college was averaging 18 to 19 inches of induced vertical break. So really good movement and ride on that pitch. And then you have guys like Louis Perales and Juan Valera, or even, Yoker Fajardo, all of these guys kind of lurk right there on, the edge of the top five. All of them have a case to probably be as high as 3 or 4, frankly. And depending upon who you talk to throughout the game and even within the Red Sox organization, you might get those 4 or 5 pitchers lined up, differently and in a different order from each person. That's kind of how close all of them are. All of them have a lot of upside, and kudos to the Red Sox and what they've been able to do with their pitching development. Something they haven't done very well historically.
The other thing I was going to add to that is I think this is actually syncing up pretty well for them. We just talked about the Pirates and how they had the pitching, and now they're adding the hitting. I look at the Red Sox and you say, okay, like the hitting benefit, the growth they should see offensively next year really comes from full seasons from guys like Roman Anthony, who obviously was having a breakout year and then missed some time, getting Tristan Casas back at first base, kind of blending them in. Marcelo, yes, Bregman's a free agent, but Marcelo Meyer, got a little bit of time up there last year. Trevor Story looked to be back in fine form. Ceddanne Rafael, I will see if they keep Jarren Duran, but if they do, that's a whole lot of offensive firepower, and guys also have a lot of defensive value as well. So this is a pretty good lineup that doesn't need a whole lot of help. Ideally, I would say that they need to figure out a way to fix Christian Campbell and was kind of a lost season for him. Maybe he fits as one of the outfielders as well. But Willie Abreu and all that. So you've got a lot of guys, a lot of young talent at the lineup. Now you have the pitching coming. You have Tola, you have Early, who are basically should be there in 2026. They were there at the end of 25. And then you look beyond that, and I would say that the other thing that stands out with this is with the amount of pitching that they have kind of coming up, the amount of kind of resources they've sunk into that, it also gives them a little bit of trade ammunition at the deadline if they need be as well. It's not going to be a farm system that ranks nearly as high as it did coming into last year because they had the top prospects in baseball and Roman Anthony. They had Marcelo Meyer. They had Christian Campbell. They had guys like that at the top of the top 25. It's not going to be like that this year, but at the same time, this is still a pretty deep farm system and one that's pretty interesting on the pitching side.
All right. I would love a good fan question. We've got a few rolling in today. Always appreciate when they come in during the middle of the show and not the end of the show. So good work. That means we can bring it up. Let's get to one of them right now. This is from Robert. This is going back to our top segment of the show. What area do you think the Pirates or the Marlins will actually spend at? Neither one needs pitching. JJ, you want to take it and Geoff can piggyback?
Yeah. I would say that on the Marlins side, the Pirates, I would say it makes sense to kind of spread money around a little bit. The Willie Castros and all of the world where you're saying like, hey, can we spend some money here, spend some money there? I wonder what Geoff thinks about this, but my thought on the Marlins side is I would love to see the Marlins actually spend big for like a big bat. Like, again, I know Schwarber was the one who's linked to the Pirates, but a Schwarber or, you've a Pete Alonso. There are a number of guys out there who we'll see if they would even be willing to go there. But at the same time, I would love to see the Marlins add a big bat in the middle of the lineup rather than kind of spread the money around among kind of second tier free agents.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think that, the Marlins generally have always kind of been like I don't think they're going to be like a top 5 team in terms of spend. I've always thought they were kind of like a lurking, sneaky, good baseball market. You just think about the demographics there. You think about it being one of the biggest baseball hotbeds in the world. It's always kind of not made sense to me. It's a very big metropolitan area. They spend money, like I said, with other sports. Now, I know pro sports in Miami has always been a little bit tricky, but that said, yeah, I mean, it seems like the perfect place to go out and get a Schwarber. I don't think they'll spend the dollars to get Kyle Tucker, but those are the kind of players they should be in on, especially with the core that they have right now. They have some nice players. They have a nice complementary core. But if you can add a couple of big bats to that lineup, and maybe you shop one at the first tier of the market and then one in the second or the third tier of the market, I think that lineup could be pretty dangerous next year if they were capable of doing that. I just don't know if they're going to go out into the free agent market and spend $300-400 million in this day and age is going to take to land a couple of those guys. But, I do agree with you, JJ, where I don't anticipate the Pirates to spend a ton of money. It's just going out and spending any money and honestly just making some smart free agent decisions and improving that team to the point that they have 9 major league average players in their lineup, I think would make a world of difference, because this was a top half pitching staff last year. Even absent of Paul Skeens, there were a lot of pitching breakouts. It's a pretty good bullpen. As you mentioned, their starting depth. Throughout the organization, pitching is not an issue there, and they do a pretty good job of coaching it, though I know there's been some shakeups on that staff. If I'm the Pirates, I think it's a much different place where you just need to sort of get an average major league roster together. You could even sign guys that are, glove first over bat that just hit enough to stay in the lineup. That would be valuable for this team at this point. So I think it's two different places where they are. And certainly when we're talking about the Marlins, they should go out there and make a big free agent move, because I think it would really change the dynamic of this team and allow them to compete with the Braves and the Mets and the Phillies in that division. That's, the arms race of arms races right now.
Hey, Kyle Tucker is from Florida. I don't think the Marlins are going to spend at that level. Hey, maybe the Rays with the new owner spend at that level. That could be a topic
bring it
of
back to Tampa
conversations from that area. Yeah, bring it back to Tampa. Anyway, let's take a quick break. We're going to do a final sprint. We're saying bye to Geoff. We'll bring on Matt Eddy in a moment.
If you are still carrying a clunky leather brick that can be mistaken for an old school wallet, may I introduce you to what Eric Kratz is getting himself for the holidays?
I mean, this is the greatest wallet that I've ever seen in my life. Your credit cards fit in here. It's adjustable, lifetime guaranteed. Like this is a must-have for the holidays. Absolute must-have.
Ridge Olive Matte. That is the design that Kratz has right now, and you can get a hold of that. There's over 50 plus colors and styles to choose from over at Ridge. You can even get a wallet that features every NFL, MLB, or college team. And for a limited time, Ridge is having their huge Black Friday sale. Head to ridge.com/foul to get up to 47% off your order. This is by far the biggest discount they've given all year. That's ridge.com/foul for up to 47% off your order during their biggest sale of the year. After your purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about Ridge. Tell them Foul Territory sent you.
Hurry, it's the final sprint, and Matt Eddy is here. We're going to do a quick hitter on what's next for the Mets. Matt, great to have you on. And what do you think their prospect pool looks like on the outfield side with Brandon Nimmo getting moved over to Texas?
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Scott, for inviting me on. Number 2 prospect Carson Bench looks like the front runner, potentially as soon as opening day if he plays well in spring training. Beyond him, they do have some other outfield options, including Jet Williams, who finished at AAA, and Ryan Clifford, who's capable in a corner outfield, also finished at AAA.
I just kind of want to add to this, like Matt said, like they've already said that Bench has a chance to kind of compete from opening day, maybe win a job. It does also strike me that the Mets kind of like, they're not just getting younger here, Matt, but this also could be a chance for them to kind of improve the defense as well. Obviously, midseason last year, they brought in Cedric Mullins. It seemed like that was kind of an effort to try to improve the defense. But how important could it be also for them, by whether it's a Benj or a Jet Williams or some of these other guys, to maybe get a little younger, that also may increase their range a little bit in the outfield, which seems like it has been an issue at times for them.
Yes, that's fair. And that's something David Stearns has mentioned about improving the speed, the versatility, the defense of the team. And, Benj plays a capable center field, above average. I think rival teams like him a little better in the corners, but I think as a young player, I think you can watch him grow into center field and maybe approach plus. Jet Williams is more known as a middle infielder, but has gained a lot of center field experience.
But the other thing that stands out with this is okay, because I say with Jet also, we now know he's probably not going to play second base with Semien there. He's not going to play shortstop with Francisco Lindor there. Does this kind of mean that, like you said, he's been primarily middle infielder, but this guy is going to be at the upper level of the minors now. Does this move kind of maybe lead to a little bit more outfield time for him?
It could. I mean, that's certainly the easiest way to read the tea leaves with Lindor and Semien established at the middle infield, that Williams will see more outfield time.
Okay. Matt, good stuff. Appreciate the quick hitters here on where the Mets prospects are at and on the way out here. This is our last show before the holiday for Baseball America Hot Sheet. So one more reminder, 40% off a digital subscription, best deal of the year for Baseball America. And for those of you that have listened to this show all year, we appreciate you. There are also other Baseball America shows, podcasts to check out on the Baseball America YouTube channel and on the Baseball America podcast feed. JJ, have a great holiday. Matt, you too. And we'll chat next Monday.
Looking forward to it.
Bye, guys.